Hi everyone, this is Amy from the Helms Academy, and today we'll be doing a math roundtable recap from our January 14th, 2021 class. So just as a reminder, we always follow the same steps when we're trying to solve a word problem. It's always important to figure out what the important information is first, determine which operations you'll need to do, and then write out the problem using any numbers and operations before you solve. Let's take a look at our first very short word problem, which says, which of the following expressions is equivalent to 3x times 2 plus 5y? A, 3x plus 5y, B, 6x plus 5y, C, 6x plus 15y, or D, 6x plus 15xy. Well, what we need to know here is how to simplify this problem or restructure it in a different way. And whenever I see something sitting just outside parentheses with a few things inside those parentheses, that's a clue to me that I'm going to need to use the distributive property, which means I need to give that 3x to the 2, and then I also need to give that 3x to the 5y. So we could think about it like this. Instead of 3x times 2 plus 5y, we could think about it as 3x times 2 plus 3x times 5y. Now to simplify this even more, we need to combine like terms. So here, the x is by itself on that left side. So we can't do anything else with that, but we can do something with the 3 and the 2. We can multiply them together. And same thing on the other side. The x and the y, there are no other like terms that we can combine those with, but the 3 and the 5 we could combine together. So that means we would get 3 times 2, which is 6, and bring down the x. And on the other side, we would do 3 times 5, which is 15, and then put the x and y with it. For problem 2, it says, if y equals 3ab plus 2b, what is y when a equals 1.5 and b equals 2? Well, to solve this, all we have to do is plug in the numbers. Everything is given to us there. It's just a matter of getting it together and making sure we're solving it properly. So we know when we see 3ab that means multiplying those numbers together. So a is 1.5 and b is 2. And then with 2b, again, we're multiplying together 2, and then the b is worth 2. So it would look like this in number form. When we put those together, we end up with 9 and then 4, and we need to add those two numbers together to get 13. For word problem 3, it says, Emma needs to order liquid fertilizer for her landscaping company. She plans to keep the fertilizer in a large cylindrical storage tank, but isn't sure how much it will hold. The tank is 10 feet tall and the circular base has a radius of 5 feet. What is the volume of her storage tank? So a few key things here. First of all, we know the storage tank is a cylinder. So think of like a tin can. That is the shape that we're thinking of here. We know it's 10 feet tall, so a big cylinder, and 5 feet is the radius. Now, what's the radius? The radius is the distance from the middle of a circle to the outer edge. The diameter is the measurement that's twice the radius, all the way across. But we know just the radius today, which is 5 feet. So it's asking us to figure out the volume. And if I see the word volume, I know I'm going to go straight to my formula sheet. So today we're using the GED formula sheet, and you can see just a section of it on the screen. If you look, this section is about surface area and volume. So you'll see one column where you see SA, surface area, and another column where you see V for volume. So let's make sure we're getting the right one. We're going to look over here at cylinder, and we're going to follow it across, not to surface area, but to volume. So we need this particular formula. So if you take a look, we have V equals pi r squared times height. So we need to plug in the information that we have to be able to solve this. Well, we know pi is going to be 3.14. Your formula sheet will tell you this, and oftentimes on the test, if you have a problem that involves pi, it will give you a reminder that you need to use 3.14. Now, we use 3.14 times and then the radius squared. Well, it tells us here that our radius is 5 feet, so we can put 5 squared. And then it asks us to multiply both of those things by the height, And it tells us here that our tank is 10 feet tall. So when we take the next step, we will add in that we need to solve for that 5 squared, which is 25. 5 times 5. Be careful not to get messed up on this one and do 5 times 2, which would be 10. A squared means that you're multiplying the number by itself. So now that we have that 25, we can just multiply straight across. And our final answer is 785 feet cubed. Now remember, when we talk about volume, you'll always have that number 3 to mean cubed at the end for all 3 dimensions. For word problem 4, it says, if A equals -4 and B equals 3, what is the absolute value of A minus B? Now you'll notice that I said absolute value. That's what those bars mean when they're around something. You'll see these long straight bars around a number or a series of numbers. So here we have those absolute value bars, and absolute value means how far away from 0 is the number. So for example, whether I had -20 or +20, I would still have to say that the absolute value of both of those numbers is 20, because that's how far away they are from 0, whether it's negative or positive. So the absolute value, I like to think about it as how many spaces are you going to move in your game. If you're playing a board game, you need to move a certain number of spaces around, whether it's forward or backward, it doesn't matter. It's just how many spaces is it that you need to move. That's the absolute value. So here, let's plug in our numbers. We have A minus B, so A is -4. We're going to put a minus sign and then put in B, which is 3. So if we have -4, we're already in debt by $4, and then we have -3, so we're going down even further, 3. What do we get? -7. Now remember, this is still within our absolute value bars, so we haven't finished solving until we find what the absolute value of -7 is. And the quickest way to do that is if you see a negative sign inside of absolute value, you go ahead and just take that off and then remove the absolute value bars. So the final answer is just 7. For word problem 5, it says, which answer choice shows the arrangement of the following numbers from least to greatest? Now, you'll notice these numbers are a mix of decimals and fractions. This is a very common type of question on your tests. So the easiest thing to do is to translate some of these into the other type. So you'll see here we have the fractions that we've translated over into decimals. And the easiest way to do that is to take your calculator that you're working with and just do 1 divided by 6, which is 0.167, or 1 divided by 3, which is 0.333, or 3 divided by 22, which is 0.136. So the reason that we're switching to decimals is that it's a little easier to figure out their size and to get them all on the same page. Now, right away, I'm going to notice that there are 2 very low numbers. Right? We have a -1/3 and a -0.7. And when I see negatives, I know those are automatically going to be much lower than my positive numbers. So I'm going to start with those 2 because I know they will be the least. So right away, I can tell that one of these is not going to be a great option. Look at letter A. I see my -1/3, but then my -0.7 is way toward the end of that list. So that's not going to be a great option. Now, I do want to take a look here and figure out which one will be first and which one will be second. So we know that it's 0.07 or -1/3, and that -1/3 is 0.333. Now we need to look at that first decimal place. So I see 0.7 and then 0.3. So for negatives, we want to have that larger negative further on the lower side, right? Think about it as owing someone more money. You're more in debt. That's a lower number, right? You want to owe less. So that will get you closer to 0. So here, the 0.7, because it's negative, actually is going to come first. That's the lowest number. And then after it, the 0.333, which they have listed here as -1/3. So once I figure that information out, I can actually get rid of 2 of my options because I know what the first 2 numbers should be. So A and C are not going to work. So now I just need to figure out what comes next. I have 0.4, 0.167, and 0.136. Now these are positive numbers, so we're going to work with them more logically and start with the lowest number after the decimal. So if I have the option between 0.4, 0.1, and 0.1, well, it's got to be between my 2.1 options. So now I need to look to the next number. Which one's lower, 0.16 or 0.13? Well, of course, 3 is lower than 6, so that means the 3/22 or 0.136 is going to come next. So if I look at my options down below on B or D, there's only one of those that will work, and I actually don't need to finish solving with the remaining fractions and decimals because I know that B can be the only option then. Thank you so much for solving with me today, and great job on these math problems. I wish you luck on your math tests, and hopefully you'll continue checking out our videos here on the Helms Academy YouTube channel. You can also give a thumbs up or a comment, and don't forget to subscribe so that you see all the latest videos coming in each week. You can also check out the Helms Academy on Instagram and on Facebook, and on our website at helmsacademy.org.